Yeah.
Ready? We need a little like snappy thing, a little action thing.
Go. That'll do.
Nice.
Great.
All right. Hello. Who are you and what do you do? Respectively.
Hello. You can go first.
Hello, my name is Reuben. I am a PhD candidate at the University of Melbourne in the Department of Psychiatry. Hello, how am I? I'm doing very well. I'm happy to be here with an amazing young entrepreneur and some respected colleagues as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to be here and sort of talking all things cognitive neuroscience, I guess.
Yeah.
What do I do? My PhD research is all about using eye tracking to help pinpoint attentional and self-control difficulties in people living with bipolar disorder. That's it.
Thank you, Reuben. Hello, I'm Dr. Jeremy Metha, and I am a decision neuroscientist. My whole thing, I work to try and understand the mechanisms, the neurotransmitters, and the parts of the brain that are involved in how we make choices and learn things in situations of uncertainty.
And I'm Dr. Alec Jamieson. I am also in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Melbourne. I did my PhD mostly looking at predicting treatment outcomes for psychotherapy and pharmacological interventions for major depressive disorder using functional magnetic resonance imaging. And now my work focuses on doing the same thing but for ketamine, which has sort of acute, rapid onset antidepressant effects.
Very cool. I gather from that we have smart people in the room. That's kind of what I
Where?
very impressive introductions. How does your work and your research intersect the Pebbl project potentially?
Yeah, well, I
Pass
guess.
the squid, isn't it?
Oh, we could pass the squid. Yeah.
That's good.
I'll take both. Thank you. A kiss. Just joking. So my work and my research intersecting with Pebbl. So I guess the whole foundation of my research is about using a technology, eye tracking, that up until pretty recently has been really expensive, difficult to use, cost prohibitive. So in a sense, the reason that I'm able to start thinking about using eye tracking, potentially down the line diagnostically and to add to clinicians' toolkits potentially is because of this advance in that kind of technology and the kind of entrepreneurial thinking that leads to improvements in research-related technology. And so for me, Pebbl is a really, really exciting example of a step, or maybe a leap, dare I say, at the very least a step towards new and exciting technologies that are potentially really, really relevant for clinical populations. So I guess what I'm trying to say is really in research, a lot of what we do is off the back of exciting new technologies, learning about how we're best able to use them in clinical settings, but also outside clinical settings and in everyday life, and how we can best use those to have a positive effect for people. So that's, I guess, where my research intersects at a really broad level.
So I guess to summarize, it's like the emergence of new technologies and how that could end up folding back into clinical and academic spaces. Are you saying like emerging eye tracking technology? I'm just thinking about the eye tracking in like a hire car I borrowed recently. It's like it knows when I'm not looking at the road.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're referring to? Like commercial things are leading the way to then fold back into more affordable
Yeah, absolutely.
research stuff?
Absolutely. So, people are innovating in the tech space. They're making eye tracking, for example, cheaper, easier to use, more effective. They're building these, really cool platforms that then, as researchers, we're able to piggyback off that and really try and push them to the limits and see, how we can sort of bring them above and beyond what they're already doing. So, 20 years ago, eye tracking in a clinic, I mean, even 5-10 years ago, was really, really difficult to implement. Eye trackers, very expensive, require specialized knowledge. Flashback to like 5 years ago, I don't know if you remember, there was a trend on Twitch, a popular video game streaming platform, where streamers,
the streamer was looking on
screen. Yeah, exactly. Like first-person shooter streamers would just buy like a $50 eye tracker, plug it into their computers, and then their audience would be able to see, where is this professional gamer looking? Maybe I can look there as well.
That's so interesting.
So it's really, it's exciting, to see how quickly technology moves. For me, Pebbl is a really exciting step where, what we think it can do now might even be just scratching the surface of what it ends up being able to do. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. What about you, Jeremy?
Where does Pebbl intersect with what I do? Well, I feel like in decision making, fundamentally people are two things. We're hedonistic, we like to feel good, we like to do things that make us feel good, and we're also really lazy. We take shortcuts where we can, we take the easy way out. And both of these things impact how we make choices and what we do. We'll often pick the easy option that gives us an immediate reward. Say we're standing at the grocery store, waiting at the checkout, there's a line of chocolates and whatnot right by the register. We'll grab one of those and snack on it just because it's there, because it's easy, because it's a quick reward. This extends to much more decision making more broadly. If there's an option that makes us feel good straight away, we'll go for it. If there's an option that we need to expend less effort for, we'll often go for that too. Where Pebbl comes in is potentially a way to sort of break that cycle. In our world, we've got so many things competing for our attention. Everything that we can see and hear and smell and feel is all coming into not the best system for organizing that, and trying to work out where to attend to and what matters to us is actually a really big problem in decision making. Knowing what should we pay attention to, what is meaningful to our situation, and how do we focus in on that and sort of avoid the other stuff. That's where something like Pebbl could be really useful to give us cues to say, hey, this is the thing that you're trying to do, this is what you need to do, attend to this thing, leave the other stuff in the background. And potentially through that application of the Pebbl platform or project, we can lead people to be more mindful, to make better decisions, and to actually think about what they're doing rather than taking the feel good or the easy way out.
Well said.
Alec?
Yeah. I guess I'm going to just piggyback on what Jeremy's just said. Generally speaking, behavior modification, whether that's in a clinical setting or just in kind of average daily life, is hard, right? And I think anything that you can do to give yourself a sense of structure around that, or give yourself an extra edge in sort of organizing your life, is always going to be beneficial. And something like Pebbl, where you have limited sort of direct screen interaction. I don't know, none of us need more screen time.
Neither do you on
and in addition to like something very simple like having voice feedback, I think that's something novel, which kind of cuts through all the other stimuli that we have to deal with on a daily basis. That's what we're going to kind of add in if you want to make some sort of positive change in your life.
I know that none of you are clinicians, but another thing that we have been exploring is like how this same mechanism of, I guess it is data collection in a sense, being able to go to the GP and pull up a record of what you've done when, how that's impacted what days were good days, bad days. Period trackers are really helpful in this space. You can go in and you've sort of got all of that data you've captured, but we don't have things like that for broader life. And I know when I go into the GP, I've got 15 minutes to try and remember all of the context, all of the symptoms. When did I do the thing that was recommended to me? When did I forget? I feel like there's a whole heap of applications for Pebbl we haven't explored yet, like focusing on direct to consumer, but we'll see where it
Yeah,
goes.
potential avenues for the future.
And
And I
then,
think that's an excellent point as well. Like, particularly in a setting where you're trying to communicate a lot of complex information to a professional or like a clinician, something that you can look back on that has very quick summary statistics, and whether that's through Pebbl or through like the wider interface, that can be really useful for understanding yourself as well. Like looking back and be like, okay, what did I actually do in the last month? What did that look like for me? Was I able to implement all of these things I wanted to do? Where it can be very difficult if you're not journaling or keeping track of that in real
people
time.
keep personal diaries,
100%.
and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it brings up there's this idea emerging of precision medicine, of developing treatments and things to treat the specific individual and what they need, rather than sort of a broad spectrum kind of thing. And that's where something like Pebbl collecting data can be really useful. I've got some experience with this. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and so I wear a continuous glucose monitor, which is taking readings continuously through the day. That gets ported to my phone, and I can share that with my clinician and say, this is what the glucose level is doing. I exercised, it dropped. I ate too many pastries, it spiked back up. And there's direct sort of causality there. The action and the consequence are both shown in granularity. This is recording for me every couple of minutes, but that can be then turned into daily, weekly, monthly reports, that sort of thing. And then having that sort of insight into what's going on at a specific time, you don't need to write a diary for it because you're not going to remember all this stuff. It's just happening in the background. But being collected, being collated, and being kept somewhere that's easy to then access and share down the line.
And I feel like that's interesting for like what we've just discussed, maybe taking it to the doctor, but also that like gamification of building new habits, being able to look back at your streaks and how many times you hit a new habit this week or this month.
So I plug
It's
out.
just interesting. You get more context on your own life without having to remember to write things down.
Yes, would you?
Yeah, I guess it's so interesting to me and quite exciting. Again, this discussion, we've mostly been talking about like the potential diagnostic uses of Pebbl, which actually is not necessarily something that is like even the main goal. To be fair,
it's not something I even thought of.
Yeah, it's just so this is what's exciting to me about these new platforms emerging, being able to work with the exciting new tech that we have and potentially use it to assist in all these other areas that we might not otherwise have thought of. I really love the idea of the what they call ecological momentary assessment in research, which is when you bring in a participant to a research study, you've got them on one day out of their entire life, and it's a very specific setting where it can be quite
stressful.
Exactly. Quite stressful for the participant. You're in a new setting. Maybe you're at a university or a hospital.
Stared at by people in white coats with glasses.
Often asking quite distressing questions about your life.
Exactly. It's
taking blood samples or whatever else.
Yeah, it is stressful. So then the question is, are we really getting an accurate sample of behavior across the rest of these participants' lives? So we try and in the study that I've been a part of from a running the study setting, we try and get a week-long ecological momentary assessment in the week leading up to the study. So we're essentially prompting people 3 or 4 times a day at random points with questions like, in the morning, how did you sleep last night? Like, how many hours do you reckon you slept? What are you doing right now? Are you being sedentary, sitting down? Are you doing some sort of active brain training, like, I don't know, doing a Sudoku or playing a video game or something like that? Or are you doing some exercise? And these questions are really, really relevant to get the kind of lifestyle factors. My particular research area is in bipolar disorder, where lifestyle factors appear to have a really large effect on the clinical outcome for people living with bipolar disorder. And I imagine it's quite similar with other, mental health conditions.
And how are these questions, like in the study you've been a part of, how are you prompting people with them? Is it an email? Is it a text message?
It's using an app, which is a whole nother kettle of fish, because there aren't really any good EMA, ecological monetary assessment apps out there. We've done a big scan, and it's really hard to find something that works on all devices. Like we had one, but it only worked on iPhones, which
Give every participant an iPhone.
and
There
then
goes the budget.
and then you're like, okay, you can only participate in our study if you have an iPhone, which is
And then you get like a weird bias data
Exactly.
segment for no real reason.
exactly.
The less
Exactly.
tech-savy.
Yeah.
So the other issue with doing stuff like that, my background before doing my doctorate in neuroscience was in commerce. I did a decision risk and financial science master's in commerce. And one of the things we learned during that is that survey data can be useful, but also people aren't very honest. What they report to you and what they actually do may be very, very different. They might be trying to put on the rose-tinted glasses and give you, oh, this is what I'd like to be doing, or this is what I think you want me to be doing. So collecting those kind of survey data, while can fill out some gaps, can also not be particularly accurate. There's also another side of it. It can have some positive consequences too, by constantly prompting people saying, hey, what are you doing? In a way that Pebbl might be able to do with interruptions and notifications. You can snap people out of their bad habits. You can say, oh, I'm not supposed to be doom scrolling, I'm supposed to be going for a walk. So I'm going to say that I'm going for a walk, and then I'm going to go for a walk. And by doing that throughout the day, oh, how many hours do you sleep? Well, I went to bed a little bit earlier because I needed to try and get some extra time. We can have some unintended sort of positive consequences from those kind of surveys and interventions as well.
And like my understanding of what you were just saying about the self-reporting being a bit like rose-tinted glasses, like that often isn't malicious or conscious
no.
skewing. It's like your perception, thinking back across your whole week or your whole month, or
Will be jaded one way or another.
it's an authentic perception, but
Yeah.
it's not like the in the moment reality.
A classic example of that is you ask people, do you think you're, scale of 1 to 10, how good are you as a driver? No one's going to say 5. We know that there has to be, on average, 5 out of 10 being the person, but everyone's going to say, oh, I'm a 7 or an 8, or I don't drive. And so we get this artificially inflated things where people may not think that they're better than they are, but they think, oh, I'm pretty good, so I'll do this. Yeah,
That's so
everyone
interesting.
should be. 5 is the standard. A nice bell curve either side.
Ideal world.
Yeah.
I guess to bridge from here, what is behavior modification? I feel like we've started to talk a lot about it,
Yeah,
but
it's
what
good.
is it?
I think, like, in its simplest terms, it's like just a structured way of changing the way that you're doing things. Like, you've got a goal that, I want to reduce the amount of alcohol I'm consuming, or I want to cut down on smoking and stuff, and then it's the way in which that is done. And I'm just going to circle back to something you guys were mentioning earlier as well in terms of the Pebbl. I think it's quite interesting in the case of people who have like poor interoceptive awareness. So this is your ability to kind of monitor your bodily signals. It's common across many different disorders, and also has a lot of variability in the healthy population as well. And I think, what some people struggle with quite a lot is noticing when they're feeling hungry, they're feeling tired, they're feeling thirsty. And
also changes a lot with attention there. Think about the last time you were sitting there really focusing on something, and then you got up and you go, oh, I've been sitting weirdly, I'm sore, I need to get a glass of water, I need to go get something to eat. And that all hits you at once because you've snapped out of that focus, and suddenly all of this other stuff comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the main way I'm using Pebbl at the moment is because I get so hyper-focused on Pebbl as a project that I forget I need to touch grass, I need to eat lunch, I need to go to the bathroom. Yeah, 100%.
And this is the thing, right? Like having something that adds that layer of structure to your day, and like breaks it up in a way that like tells you, hey, this important thing is going to happen. You need to go do that.
About it.
It's incredibly important, particularly if you're the kind of person who isn't great at listening to your body. And then I think like there's the added benefit of, as you have that extra cue, you learn to kind of associate that with those bodily signals. So you get better at kind of recognizing and acting on them as well. So there is a little bit of an interventional component there.
So do you think, for me, like at some point I might not set reminders every day to eat lunch because it's going to start habituating?
I guess we'll see how it kind of plays out. I think that's definitely a good goal and definitely what would be suggested by any kind of associative learning. But yeah, I think that's an exciting part of the project. Exactly.
And your body will change, your needs will change, your metabolism will change, and eventually you get to a point where you really need to eat lunch at a certain time. So those interoceptive cues should be loud enough to overcome your focus.
Very cool. You mentioned before there's like a framework around nudging for behaviour change.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways you can elicit behavioural change. This is sort of at a more organisational level. You can explicitly ban things. You can say, right, no smoking. You can make them prohibitively expensive. You can drive up the costs of cigarettes. Or you can incentivize people to do something else, be that through engaging with different things. I mean, they're not much better, but vaping rather than smoking. Or chewing gum or giving some other sort of thing that they can do instead. The first one is very legislative, just an outright ban. The second one with the financial incentive is really still strictly limiting. The third option is sort of nudging people away from this towards an alternative, giving them something else to focus on, giving them something else to do. So that's this idea of nudging. It's proposed by a guy called Richard Thaler. He won the Nobel Prize in Economics a few years back and has written a wonderful book called Nudge. It's a yellow book with a man pushing an elephant on the front cover. Worth a read and fairly accessible. The elephant. But that's his whole idea, is that we should stop doing this kind of draconian, strict legislation thing and move more towards modifying behaviour through making other options available through nudging.
And is a big part of that like having choice and having autonomy over how you navigate these nudges rather than external system forcing you into decisions?
Yeah, well, it's sort of biasing your choice in a way. It's saying, we're going to make these options that are better for society, better for us, better for you, more favourable to you. We're going to make them easier to access.
The choice is still yours.
The choice is still yours, but we'll make them easier to access. We'll make them more rewarding, coming back to those two things that humans like, being lazy and being hedonistic.
But that sense of agency is really important if you want consistent change as well. Like, it's very easy. If you want someone to change their behavior in the short term, you can give them very strict rules, and that might work for 6 to 8 weeks. But long-term change requires engagement and requires someone to feel like they have control over this thing. And that's kind of difficult to instill. It's hard for me to kind of communicate to another person, like, you should care about this. If that doesn't come from within, it's not going to happen.
Or enforcing a really early bedtime for children. They'll go to bed at that time, but the minute you're not watching them, they'll be up.
I feel like this is like an interesting concept for a lot of folks I work with have PDA. And so how does PDA fit into behavior change? And like we explore this a bit when it's coming from others versus the self. But then Pebbl's this weird in between. It's not a person, it's not you, it's something you have choice and control over, but it's still somewhat external.
It's a little circuit breaker.
Yeah. So like what would you say is the way that Pebbl can influence behavior modification? Or vice versa?
I mean, you need to engage in the behavioural modification to actually set those reminders in Pebbl. So you need to be actively thinking about doing that to begin with. But you don't need to be thinking about that all the time. You set the reminder when you remember to set the reminder, and then you'll go off and do whatever you're doing in your day, think about other things. But that reminder will be there to tell you, hey, it's time to eat lunch.
So that like in the moment choice is sort of reinforced in the positive direction.
Yeah, well, it's sort of letting you make that decision for future use sometime in the past.
But then still jumping in real time.
And saying, hey, fix this, do this thing.
And it also frees up, I guess, that those attentional resources that you would otherwise be using, whether it's in a sort of guilt fashion, like, oh, I really need to go outside and touch grass. You can sort of disengage with that. You can remove that part of your brain that's committing resources to that, because when it's time, previous me had a plan. I will touch grass. I don't need to worry about it.
So
I don't need to be
it's
attending.
like
to that.
zoomed out you starts to collaborate with zoomed in in the moment.
You're looking after future you as
Interesting.
current you's point of view. And then the Pebbl is reminding you that, hey, past you said you should touch grass, eat lunch, eat grass,
That
touch
like
lunch, whatever it is.
accountability. One last thing that I kind of want to explore before we move on is the concept of when you're really into something and then you need to transition to something else that's time bound, how hard that can be. Or then the inverse of knowing you've got something time bound at 4 p.m. and you've got nothing else structured and getting stuck in that paralysis of, well, it's 11 and now it's 12 and now it's, I guess, like time as a anchor to behavior change. How do we make those things cooperate?
People say time's linear in terms of what we pay attention
We're about to get
Well,
really
yeah.
deep.
in terms of what we pay attention, in terms of how we perceive it, it really isn't. We can sit here in silence for a minute, and that's going to feel like much longer than a minute. However, we can go ahead and talk, and that minute's going to breeze by, and that's just because we've got other things to focus on. We're not paying attention to that ticking clock and the way the time's moving really slowly there. And so this thing, when you hyper-focus, time sort of flies because your brain's doing a bunch of other things and not worrying about the clock. Whereas when you've got that deadline that says, hey, 4 o'clock, you've got to be in X place with Y person doing Z thing, if that takes over, it can become, I've got to be in X place in 3 hours, in X place in 2 hours. And that can really take away those resources, like Reuben was saying, from allocating them, for doing other things with them, from spending your time maybe more effectively.
I mean, something I've started doing is almost setting up all of those prompters. If I've got something at 4 p.m., it means at 3 p.m. I need to transition off, and at 3:20 I need to get changed. And I can sort of set up those dominoes in advance.
Do you go ahead and set something for, say, at 11 a.m.? I know I've got this thing at 4 p.m., but at 11 a.m. I should be doing this. I've started, it's helped me start to kind of break down my day in terms of, because I'm terrible at time management, and time blindness is a really common thing in the neurodivergence community. It's just, like we say, like time is not very linear or cooperative.
It's also like, people talk about, like, thank you, diarizing, helping with keeping track of the minutes and hours, and really feeling like you're making the most of it. Like, not to get all existential, but I think as you sort of age, the days and weeks and years tend to go by a little bit faster. And it's kind of nice to be able to look back and see what you were up to, and sort of pay attention to the minutes, I guess. And having Pebbl there, I imagine having a log of, what reminders did I set, is kind of like a surrogate to what did I do? Like, what have I been doing in my days? So I think that's quite an exciting factor of it as well.
The cool thing about Pebbl in that sense, though, is that it's all encrypted. So it's like you can look back at what you have done, but we're not holding your life story somewhere for us to use as data for ulterior purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit ick.
Yeah. And I think the other benefit is, like, if you work in a professional setting and you're trying to do your performance review at the end of the year, right? And it's like, what did I do? If you have something where you've recorded down everything you've done for the year and you have it in a very structured way, it's very easy to extract the information and, like, write it into a report. So I think something like Pebbl would be quite useful for that as well.
It's really interesting to me, like, we've gone on a total tangent here, but the way that so much technology is pulling us away from reality, but then there's elements of technology that can kind of keep us mindful of the real world. Keep us grounded.
Yeah, I think, like, where technology is really exciting is where it frees us from labor that we do not want to participate in, right? And I think both in terms of tracking your day and organizing your day, there's very few people I know who enjoy doing that.
It's a necessary evil.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's something that you need in order to be productive, and people have varying levels of success in when they engage in that. But anything that can ease that and allow you to engage in the things that you enjoy, that are fruitful, and anything that allows you to allocate resources more efficiently is going to be helpful for your career. It's going to be helpful for your well-being, and that's kind of what the goal of any technology should be, right? To just help people live better lives.
Very well said.
Yeah.
That is the goal. That is definitely the goal of Pebbl.
Yeah.
To change directions a little, why do auditory and spoken cues land differently to, say, getting hit with a app notification or...
I think part of it is just the novelty of it. So human brains are really good at picking out different things in the environment. That is kind of how it's fundamentally wired, is to detect when things are not what they are expected to be. So anything you can use to cut through the general noise of 21st century life is going to be a benefit. And I think the other benefit is when we're talking about spoken cues, there's a lot of information sort of inbuilt in that you don't get from written information about tone, about sense of urgency, and I think that there is a sense of familiarity with vocalizations that you don't get in written information.
Parts of the human brain are also wired to pick up verbal cues. We can hear cars and traffic and beeping of alarms or whatever in the background, but when someone's talking to you, you know about it. There's actual little chunks of brain tissue that go up. Those are spoken words in my language. Let's pay attention to them. Let's focus in on those. Let's drown out the background noise a bit. And so having verbal cues rather than clicks or bings or bongs or whatever else sounds that you might find in your environment or an app might make can really be a lot easier to snap our focus to than other things.
I think something really interesting, I am a child of the late 90s, and I love things like a Tamagotchi, I love all that older tech, is that although Pebbl is not AI, it's not a friend, it's not conversational, I'm still almost building a bond with this thing that's it's a little dumb, it's a little cute, it's novel, it has a voice, and so it inherently has a bit of a personality.
Did you ever have a pet rock?
I have a pet rock. Why don't I bring the rock?
Bring the rock over.
Yeah, bring the rock over.
Yeah, it's very easy. We're very good at anthropomorphizing things and forming bonds with inanimate objects, even if they don't communicate. Oh, that's a pet boulder.
He's been growing. Well fed.
Oh my gosh.
Yoshi,
This might be the OG Pebbl. This might be the unconscious beginning of this project that I found on the beach 10 years ago.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's very easy to bond with things that do not have any sort of salience or sentience or emotion to themselves, but we can still become attached to them. It's a very nice rock.
It is nice.
Isn't it?
Is that granite?
I don't know. Maybe.
Give it a lick.
Quartz, possibly?
You heard it here from science.
Dr. Jeremy says it's quartz.
Taste of science.
Oh, that's one way that paleontologists in particular will tell us something's a rock or a fossil. You give it a lick, and if it sticks to your tongue a little bit, it's more likely to be a fossil. More science fact of the day.
Very fun.
That's terrifying. If it bites back, it's probably
still alive.
I feel like
touch grass and lick rocks, everybody.
I feel like you've touched on something really interesting there with the emergence of all these AI friends and all of the scary things we're seeing as a result of that you can build a bond with something without building a relationship.
Yeah, it can be very
Pebbl is
directional.
not learning from it is doing as instructed. It's not that clever. But
I mean, in some ways, I think there's a lot of benefit to that. Obviously, human beings are wonderful creatures in their ability to imagine relationships, right? And that's fine when it's something that doesn't have the ability to learn from you back. And it's not exploitative, and it can't be monetized directly. That the relationship aspect of it, which is something that obviously with the rise of AI and AI chatbots in particular is becoming more of an issue. And I think when things can learn from you, they don't just learn from the good parts, they can learn from the bad parts, and that gets reinforced over time, which is something that we really need to do a better
I mean,
job
Pebbl
of
it's
cutting
not
out.
something you can negotiate with.
Yeah.
When Pebbl says it's time to touch grass,
It's because you, like,
it's you.
an hour ago
Past
said
you
touch
has
grass.
decided, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Past the
really
future.
interesting balancing this concept that Pebbl is just amplifying your choices and things that you have set for yourself, or maybe a support person has defined with you. But it has its own little external personality just by having a few haptics. And that's
A little smiley face.
yeah, this little guy. Do any of you have reflections on Pebbl from a personal perspective? I know you've all done incredible amounts of study.
It doesn't sound that nice when you say it like that. Incorrect. Yeah, far too much study. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think someone who, like, professionally has to learn new things as a job, you kind of you figure out how you best learn, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are mature enough to engage in those best learning practices at all times. Maybe it's not a maturity
Extreme
thing.
discipline.
I know, extreme. Yeah, there are a couple of people like that, but not many, and certainly not me. So that kind of dissonance there of knowing academically the best format for me to learn in, but not necessarily having the discipline to do that all day, every day. I think, being able to set up your own kind of schedule, and I know, this is when I'm going to want to take lunch. I know this is when my energy starts to fade for the day. Just having maybe an extra nudge or an extra push to say, just keep going. I think that is a really helpful tool, from a student perspective.
Trying to bridge that gap between the knowing and the doing.
Yeah.
So often I'll be doing something going, I know I'm not meant to be doing scrolling, or I know I'm meant to be doing something else.
Breaking that cycle and getting into
I know it,
what
but
you
then
need to do
taking the
instead.
transition and the action is so hard.
Yeah, it's like, I had to physically block the YouTube URL on my personal laptop between particular hours of the day. And that's something that I could, do for myself, because I know it's what's going to help make me the most productive. And it seems like Pebbl has the potential to be able to do that for a wider range of things as well.
Yeah, I think what you're touching on, Reuben, is that particularly I think this exists in personal and professional spaces, is a competing incentive structure where you have different things that you want to do for various reasons, and a difficulty in deciding which of those
And the
is
decision fatigue.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, there's just too many choices that one has to make in a given day. And you want to try and simplify that so that you can, use that decision energy on things that matter and things that are useful for your life rather than just benign, unimportant decisions.
Yeah, and there's also the cost of the cognitive cost of switching tasks is like a thing.
People are really bad at multitasking.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
And every time you try and change from one thing to another, that takes a little bit more time, that takes a little bit more energy, that takes a little bit more thinking to get back into the right track.
From a neuroscience perspective, can your brain multitask?
Oh, absolutely not.
No. Yeah.
No.
There you go.
We're one process at a time. Sure, we can switch between them pretty quickly, but it's very difficult to do more than one thing at once. I mean, you can learn to do it in some instances if they're very discrete things. People can play an instrument and sing at the same time, which is really doing two things at once. Or the people who are one-man bands can play 3 or 4 instruments and sing at the same time. But they're different enough, and they're engaging different parts of the brain. And you can do things that you can walk and talk. But again, very different processes. I can't think about this pet rock here and also talking to this squid while also trying to juggle and do maths at the same time. They're all involving the sort of thinky parts of my brain, and it just doesn't work. We're bad at multitasking like that, but we can do sort of motor tasks and thinking tasks at the same time, or stuff like that, or listening to music and reading and that sort of thing. Yeah.
But it is expensive to switch tasks,
Yes.
and so having a buddy that says, all right, it's time to switch tasks, we're reducing, again, it's like the attentional load, like reducing you having to think about when do I have to switch to my next task. It's like reducing the number of times you switch, and it's also reducing the attention required to decide when you think you need to switch as well. So it's like
and
a kind of a double up.
the hypervigilance of constantly checking, do I need to switch?
Yeah.
Where do I need to be? Where am I at in the day? What time is it?
And so for myself, I try and break up my days into different types of days. I'll have days where I'm dealing with people, and that'll be teaching and answering emails. There'll be experimental days where I'm in the lab, sort of on my own. There'll be data days where I'm just focusing on trying to look at what we've got and work stuff out through spreadsheets and whatnot. And then there's sort of get shit done days where I'll be using a Pomodoro style time and say, right, this is the job I need to do. I'm going to focus hard on it for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break and do that again and again. And that's something that Pebbl could really be useful in that sort of block as well. So go touch grass after half an hour.
Yeah, getting that balance.
Or 5. Getting that, yeah.
Pebbl Doro.
It's
a lot.
Patent
Yeah, a lot more customizable though, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's a platform where you can do Pomodoros, I guess, but you can also do 1 million other things.
It's like so dumb that you can adapt it to whatever you want.
Unique.
Really. This has been an epic chat. I guess to bring it to a close for each of you, like, what is your hope for the future of cognitive neuroscience, your specialties?
I'm really excited about, as Jeremy was bringing up, like precision medicine, and I think that maybe I'm preempting what you two are going to say as well. But there are so many different. The thing about precision medicine is it is precise, it is individualizable. One type of precision medicine, it's the idea is that you're able to instead of thinking about people from a mental health perspective in like diagnostic buckets, you're able to engage with them on.
Think about Reuben as a person and what he needs.
Reuben specifically needs these things. So to me, I think that Pebbl has a great deal to give in this space, and even just through our discussion today, both on the diagnostic and the interventional end, like being able to intervene attentionally and say, well, maybe you should be changing your behaviors in this way and kind of help with that. But also on the diagnostic end, like, what are you doing day to day, keeping that kind of, allowing you a platform to keep a bit of a diary without having to, spend too much time and resources on actually doing a diary. So I think it's something that could be really useful research-wise, I imagine clinically as well, but that's not, I'm not a clinician, so, but yeah, at the very least, like it's, I think something that really has the potential to intersect with that hope that a lot of researchers and clinicians have around precision medicine and precision psychiatry, for example.
I mean, what you said there about like moving towards being able to see the full human rather than sometimes arbitrary diagnostic buckets really excites me, because I work on the peer end. If that's what people want, I'm this or that diagnosis, but I'm also a whole human being.
And we have the data, like we can create. We're on the cusp of creating consciousness. We can treat individuals as their own person. The data is there. We just need to catch up and sort of prioritize our
Work out what to do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So unlike Reuben and Alec, who sort of work in the diagnostic and intervention side of things, I'm really interested in the mechanistic side of things. So what's the brain actually doing? Because we really still don't understand what that sort of kind of small ball-sized lump of jelly-like fatty tissue is doing, and how it makes us and think. And while I don't think Pebbl necessarily has a lot to offer in expanding that space, what it does have is a way to sort of break through those circuits And when we're doing things that we're not supposed to, it can crack that and say, hey, past you said you should go touch grass, eat lunch, eat grass, touch lunch, whatever else. And you can sort of force yourself to go do that. So I think in that instance, Pebbl has a really good potential role for helping people improve themselves. And maybe that leads to more sort of mechanistic changes. We know the brain can change and develop and grow and evolve and change its connections and stuff. And we know that behavioral interventions, one of the hard things about getting them to stick is getting those changes to occur. And maybe through using this tool, we can sort of facilitate that mechanistic change a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess I've been kind of thinking about what Reuben was saying about precision medicine, and I'm in two minds about it, right? Because I think like precision medicine has been this thing that has really been promised since, you know, the
Genome Project.
I mean,
Yeah.
like even before, like we think about like the earliest like echoes of psychiatry in the past, and like thinking about like balancing humors and like different humor levels give you different dispositions. And I think like we've definitely come a long way from that point, but we keep running into a lot of the same issues. And I think around, you know, treating the people that we see as people, as individuals, has always been a problem. And I think that has a lot of systemic issues and that lead to that kind of problem rising. And I don't think like it's an issue of like clinicians not recognizing that that's important or anything. I think that, you know, what fundamentally is the problem is that people are time poor, and that people need to use heuristics in order to get through their day and in order to make that as efficient as possible.
Heuristics are those mental shortcuts
Yes,
that you
yeah.
take. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I think like anything that can help to provide more nuanced understandings of problems are going to be good things in order to combat that and to provide something a little bit more well-rounded in its delivery. And I think like, you know, technologies like Pebbl, where you can have, you know, very detailed, personalized tracking of your own data across time, helps paint that picture and helps communicate this idea that, you know, you may have certain diagnoses, or you may have, you know, certain problems in the way that you attend or, you know, process bodily signals. But, you know, that looks very differently for you than it would for me, to you, and so have you. And being able to look at that, understand that for yourself is great, but also being able to communicate that with others, I think is definitely a valuable tool going forward.
Amazing. Who would like to try Pebbl?
Sure.
Yeah? Pass it down the line. Set yourself a reminder.
Set it up.
Hey, Pebbl. No?
Hi, Pebbl. How can I help you today?
Can you set a reminder for me?
What's the title?
Eat grass.
Got it. Eat grass.
Yep.
For when?
Can we do it in 45 minutes?
I'll remind you today at 2:40 p.m.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pebbl.
Thanks, Pebbl.
Hi, Pebbl. Can you please set me a reminder for 45 minutes from now to eat some lunch?
I'll remind you today at 2:33 p.m.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it. That's a wrap. Thank you so much, all of you.
Oh, good.
No problem.
No problem.
Crazy conversations. We'll see you around.
Thanks. See ya.
See ya.